Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. It is Saturday, June the 14th, and I just want to get on here today to do a follow-up video about the chaos in the streets at the dream the Lord showed me back in February of 2023. In the dream, it was specifically about the city of Nashville, Tennessee, where there would be chaos in the streets, buildings burning, buildings destroyed, people running, being shot, being arrested. And in that dream, when I released that dream, I said that I didn't know if this was about Nashville specifically or about cities in general. But that dream is currently coming to pass. I do receive dreams from the Lord, and I don't follow up on many of them. I just don't have the time to keep up with them like that. But this one in particular, when the LA stuff happened, that was the first thing that it reminded me of. So this prophecy is being fulfilled. But the thing about receiving dreams from the Lord and the way that He works with me, I am called to intercede a lot of times about the things the Lord shows me in advance, just like many of you are. And we are intercessors. We are prayer warriors. We intercede for the things the Lord shows us so that they may not come to pass at times. And I've been saying many times in my videos to pray over your cities, pray over your state, pray over your neighborhoods, pray over your children in the neighborhoods. Let's pray for your nation as a whole, right? So today in Nashville, they did their protest. They had, I believe, from what I was seeing, well over 5,000 people. It could have been more than that. And I currently live in Murfreesboro. We had protests here as well, but I prayed about those protests the night before and today, and I asked the Lord to pray against any demonic spirits that may try to take over the people as they protest, to cover our streets, cover our neighborhoods, cover the cities, cover the buildings and businesses, etc., and just praying and interceding against any violence that would occur. So I have not heard of anything that has happened except for one incident where a man brandished a gun and he was seen. I think he had threatened someone or something like that, and I think he got arrested. That's the only thing I've seen so far. The night itself is still young. I don't know if they're still protesting. It is currently 9:20 here, Central Time. But I just want to say that our prayers work. Intercession works. And if you have been called by God to be an intercessor, to be a prayer warrior, that is your power. He gave you that gift specifically. And when you operate in it effectively, it works. Prayer does work. So for those of you that are in major cities that have had protests today, if you have been praying over your cities and nothing has occurred, that's because God made you the intercessor for today. So sometimes with the prophecy, there are things that we see that will come to pass, and there are things that we see that we're called to intercede against coming to pass. So I just believe that the prayers that were placed over our cities today in Nashville and Murfreesboro have been heard by God, and that's why there has been no violence here as of yet. So in that, just know that if you're called to be an intercessor, that is your job, that is your role, and that's what you are supposed to be doing in this season, is intercessing and praying against things that are happening in the world. It's funny because at church, we have a group. It's a group of women. We get on prayer call every morning, and they have labeled me as Storm Chaser. They call me the Storm Chaser. And because I love storms. I've always loved storms since I was little. I will sit outside and until it starts hailing before I go inside. I just like to see the storms as they come in. I like to see the clouds roll in, etc. But in that, when they call me storm chaser, you know what? I take that. I receive that in the name of Jesus. As being a watchman, that's what we do. We look for the storms as they approach, and we intercede for the storms as they approach so they do not occur. That is our role. We don't chase the storms. That's what storm chasers do. They actually go looking for the storms. I don't look for the storms, but as they come my way, I watch them and I intercede for them and I pray for them. I pray against them that they do not touch my dwelling, that they do not touch my neighborhood, they do not touch my city, they do not touch my family, do not touch my children. That's what we're called to do. So I accept the name Storm Chaser. In the name of Jesus, I receive that name. But I just want to get here today to give an update. And if you have been called to be a prayer warrior and intercessor in this season, pick up your mantle and take up your role and take it seriously. Because there is power in prayer. There's power in prayer. So I just want to get here and say that, and I just pray that wherever you are living at, that whatever happened in your cities today, that the worst of it did not happen, that somebody was praying for your city if it was not you, and that no violence occurred, that no chaos broke out in the streets, and that everything was as peaceful as it could be. Okay, as peaceful as it could have been. So there is no peace in throwing foul language. There's no peace when you're throwing, hateful speech. There's no peace when you're throwing curse words at people and at the government, and at people as a whole, at groups as a whole. Right? There is no peace in that. There is a false sense of peace when you think you are doing something that is not tied to Jesus. We are called to pray for our government. We are called to pray for our leaders that are in government, not to protest against them, because God is the one that puts those people in place. So when you protest against the people in leadership, in government that control the laws of our country, you are protesting against God, against his son Jesus, and against his will for the country. And some people may not like that, but that's what it is. So we are called to pray for those that we don't agree with. We're called to pray for those that we don't necessarily like or care for. We're called to pray for our enemies. And that is our role. That is our job as a follower of Jesus Christ. We're not called to create division and to bring chaos and destruction. You open up the door for the enemy when you do that. But that is what we're here for, as intercessors, to pray against those things. And if you are an intercessor, then I'm glad that you did your job today and you prayed and interceded for what could have occurred on our streets today. But your job is not done. The fight still continues. And until you go home, that is your role, that is your job, what you have been called to do. So to all my intercessors out there, thank you, and thank you for doing what God has called you to do. But I pray you have a blessed night and a glorious night, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.